I was with one of my friend, and he just asked. He was having vape. He was smoking, so he asked me to just take one puff. So I just had one puff, and then after that, I felt something different. I wasn't addicted to that on the first puff, of course, but then I just bought me a vape, and after a few days, then it was finished. Then it was addicted. So I was like, कि one wave was finished, and I bought another one. यही same कहानी basically हर दिन.
Mustafa, who's 17 and works for his father's marketing and interior design company, admits he can't stop vaping. We just heard the story of when he first tried it at age 14. He had never smoked a cigarette before. Mustafa says he's aware of the harmful effects of vaping, but cannot seem to kick the habit. His story is hardly unique. Even though India banned vaping 5 years ago, many young people like him can't put it down.
It gets me high the first puff of the day, and I just wake up and just take a puff, and the nicotine is really addictive. I feel something different, and I feel like I'm fresh now after just taking the first puff. That's the thing I'm regularly smoking.
My name is Kudrat Vadwa and you're listening to The Signal Brief. We don't do hot takes. Instead, we bring you deep dives into the how and why of consumer trends. India banned making, selling, and advertising e-cigarettes in 2019. Today, we're asking why vaping is everywhere despite the ban. A Chinese pharmacist named Honlik invented the first commercially successful vape in 2003. After losing his father to lung cancer, he wanted to create a safer alternative to smoking. Unlike cigarettes, vapes don't burn tobacco. They heat a liquid that releases the drug inside. Some people use nicotine vapes, and others use those containing THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, the active ingredient in cannabis. Since there's no burning involved with vaping, there's no tar and no soot. But that doesn't necessarily make vaping safe. Nicotine is still addictive, and aerosols can irritate your lungs. We'll hear more from doctors on this later too. Early vapes were clunky and awkward. Then came two Stanford graduates, Adam Bowen and James Monsees, who wanted to reinvent the experience. After a few prototypes, they built Juul, a sleek, flash drive-sized vape that delivered nicotine with precision. When it launched in June 2015, Juul became what many call the iPhone of vapes: small, stylish, and effective. But that sleek design came with a price. Juul's success soon spiraled out of control. The company threw flashy parties, used influencers, and filled feeds with glossy ads. Juul was no longer just a quitting tool. It was cool. By 2019, more than 1 in 4 US high school students said that they had vaped in the past 30 days, the highest ever recorded. Flavors like mint, mango, and creme brulee made Juul irresistible to teens. That same year, in May 2019, the Indian Council of Medical Research released a white paper warning that vaping was becoming a youth trend worldwide. It cited data from the US and Europe, but none from India, where usage was still tiny and urban. That warning set off alarm bells in Delhi. With youth vaping rates skyrocketing abroad, Indian policymakers decided to act before the problem grew at home. By September 2019, the Indian Parliament passed the Prohibition of Electronic Cigarettes Act, banning the sale, import, and advertising of all e-cigarettes in the country, effectively wiping the devices off shelves overnight. Before the ban, vapes sat openly on pawn shop counters. After the ban, some sellers cleared their shelves, but others continued to stock it. Not as openly though. The vaping business is buzzing online. If you search Vaping India on Google right now, you will come across tens of websites selling vapes of different colors and flavors. So, despite the ban, the market didn't die. It simply moved online. iMark now values India's e-cigarette market at $2.2 billion. A July 2023 study by the Public Health Foundation of India identified 83 e-stores selling e-cigarettes, including 49 in India and 34 overseas. The same study also found that at least 189 influencers on Instagram actively promote these products, portraying them as cool, tasty, and cheap. These promotions often target adolescents through Instagram and Facebook, according to the study. And it works. Young people like Mustafa scroll, click, and buy. In Delhi, even some pan and smoke shops continue to stock vapes. The Signal Brief visited some such stores in South Delhi. When I asked them for vapes, the shopkeeper at the first store took out 5 vapes from his front drawer. They were all from the company Elf Bar and said made in Shenzhen, China in the back. He said he knew that selling vapes wasn't legal, but justified it by saying that so many others sell them as well.
वेप्स जो हैं ये कौन कौन लेता है यहाँ पे, जैसे एज क्या है लोगों की?
एजेड भी लेते हैं, 40 प्लस भी लेते हैं, 40 प्लस लेते हैं, लड़की भी लेते हैं, 22 भी करंट ऐसा होता ना। जो भी छोड़ना चाहते हैं
वो ज्यादा लेती। ओके, मतलब बच्चे भी लेते हैं, बड़े भी लेते हैं, सब लेते? बच्चे नहीं लेते। ओके, मतलब कोई ऐसे भी होते हैं जो पहले से शुरू करते हैं फिर स्मोकिंग कर लेते हैं?
ऐसे तो बता रहे, लोग तो ज्यादा यही कहते हैं कि इसको भी छोड़नी है, उसमें स्मेल आती है, वो तो देते हैं, या फिर कम करनी हो, क्योंकि फ्लेवर होता है इसमें।
In short, he said that everyone, from young adults to people over 50, buy vapes, claiming that they use them to quit smoking. He also said that vapes end up being more cost effective than cigarettes, even though they're more expensive. One vape costs about 1800 to 2000 rupees, but lasts for about a month. A pack of cigarettes costs just 300, but regular smokers consume that in just a day or two. The second store I went to was a part of several selling hookah pipes and other tobacco products. When I asked for vapes, the first shopkeeper refused, saying that cops had recently raided his store. The shopkeeper at the store beside him pulled out his phone. He showed me a catalog of vapes, mostly from Elf Bar too. But he worried about getting caught. So he said he doesn't stock them at the store. When a customer orders a vape, he sends his right-hand man to fetch them. And voila, the customer gets his vape within 30 minutes. He swore that he never sold to kids, but then he admitted that he just guessed people's ages without actually checking their IDs. Mustafa had also told me that almost all his friends, who are in the 14 to 18 age range, vape regularly. Of course, kids are not the only ones vaping. The Signal Brief also spoke to Subir, a 39-year-old graphic designer who started vaping in 2018.
I was at a club and a friend of mine had got it. I think the friend of mine was studying abroad and they had carried it with them. This is the time that you could carry it freely across countries and stuff also. There was no bans. It was something really new that was introduced to us where, someone just made us say that, hey, this is a blueberry ice flavor or something.
A few months in, and Subir found himself getting dependent on the vape.
So the idea was that you just kept puffing, and high stress environments and work and deadlines, it just seemed like a convenient thing to do. But I am still not sure if that was placebo or not. But when I did started heavily using these devices, after about 5 to 6 months, there would be certain days where the usage would be heavy as well. My chest definitely started hurting, one part of my chest. And I wouldn't say it was painful, but there was some sort of a discomfort. And when I kind of consciously made an effort not to do so, that pain kind of eased away. And I did not feel that. This was my journey, and slowly it started becoming habitual that once your thing ran out, then you bought another pack. It's like that.
Like Mustafa, Subir says he wasn't chasing a high anymore, just following his routine. He's trying to quit vaping now, though. He and his colleague have made a pact: no vaping for a whole year. Also, Subhi's chest discomfort isn't unusual. Doctors say vaping is not harmless.
So vaping is definitely not safe. Basically, what it does is it delivers nicotine and inhaled chemicals, right? So it's not like it's nicotine free. So if you're considering it as a better alternative to a cigarette, it really isn't, because it still has nicotine.
That was Dr. Vrinda Maheshwari. Nicotine, as Dr. Maheshwari said, is a harmful substance. Studies show that it can constrict airways, worsen asthma or other lung conditions, and increase risk of cardiovascular disease, among other things. Dr. Maheshwari said that she agrees with the ban, but that the government needs to enforce it better. Vapes are still freely available across major cities in the country. Other experts contend that the ban was a poor idea in the first place. The Signal Brief spoke to Dr. Kiran Melkote, who's worked extensively with the AHRER, or the Association of Harm Reduction, Education and Research. He told the Signal Brief that vaping is actually a solid route to smoking cessation, according to several studies.
So when we say harm reduction, it's as simple as some way to reduce the risk from a dangerous product. So vaping is likely to have about 5% of the risks of smoking, which means a 95% harm reduction. So yes, it is off risk, but in the absence of vaping, it doesn't mean that nobody would not smoke. The idea is, if people are vaping, they would be less likely to smoke, because the reason for smoking is being sort of delivered by the vaping, which is nicotine, right? But nevertheless, the vaping ban is not rooted in science. It was rooted in fear-mongering. It was rooted in emotions.
Every year, 7 million adults die of tobacco usage. In India, that number is about 1.3 million adults as of 2024. Nearly 17.8% of all deaths in India are attributable to tobacco use, according to recent data. This is a serious issue. And right now, in India, the dominant methods of stopping smoking are nicotine patches and gums. These are freely available, including on Amazon. But Dr. Kiran said that patches don't always work. That's because the route of delivery of the NRT, or the nicotine replacement therapy, matters too. If you smoke cigarettes, you're unlikely to kick your habit by chewing nicotine gum.
So they have those inhalers abroad. And if you think about it, that's exactly what vapes do. They're sort of delivering nicotine directly into your lungs for a smoker who's used to that route of nicotine delivery. So that's the reason. And there is now a mounting body of evidence. In fact, there are multiple studies and clinical trials. There's a review of reviews, which we call as a systematic review from Cochrane Foundation. That also showed that as compared to the best sort of treatment currently, whether it's varenicline, whether it's NRTs, nicotine vapes doubled the rate of quitting cigarettes. So actually showed that it's quite superior to varenicline. It is quite superior to NRTs. And every single country where they have been introduced, you have noticed it's substitutes for cigarettes.
In 2019, vaping started becoming an issue among a tiny urban youth population in India. The country then banned it preemptively. Some parents and doctors agree with the ban, since nicotine is harmful to health. But harm reduction experts like Dr. Kiran disagree with it. There's millions in India who are hooked on cigarettes, bidis, and gutkhas. And for them, vaping could have been a bridge out. But the ban sealed that bridge. Indian doctors like him cannot prescribe vapes. Indian scientists cannot conduct studies. Moreover, Dr. Kiran says that the ban did not obliterate vaping. Rather, it just pushed it underground. So, what's the bigger risk? Letting vapes circulate openly or pushing them underground? That's a question India still hasn't answered. That's all for today. You just heard the Signal Brief. We don't do hot takes. Instead, we bring you deep dives into the how and why of consumer trends. The Core produces the Signal Brief. Follow us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. To check out the rest of our work, go to www.thecore.in. If you have feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Write to us at feedback@thecore.in, or you can write to me personally at kudrat@thecore.in. Thank you for listening.